Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you are returning, thank you as always for being here. Super excited. It is Christmas in July Minis Challenge. There's going to be a whole playlist full of inspiration, so I hope you will go and check out everyone else's videos when you're done watching this one. For now, let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting. DIY number one. Okay, I have a bunch of these little wooden house shapes. They've been in my stash for a while. My sweet subscriber Rose had sent them to me. And then those other little pieces of wood came in a little package from the Dollar Tree. They were all different shapes and sizes of little, I think they're called balsa wood, but I'm not positive. But I grabbed out a selection of those that I am going to use to help put my little houses together. Now, I think these were actually for a garland because if you notice, they have little holes. There are two holes in each house, kind of towards the upper part of each of the houses. So we're going to work on hiding those later. But for right now, I am going to build my houses. So I'm just using hot glue. You can certainly use wood glue if you prefer. I was thinking about doing that and then I just opted to go with the hot glue. So I am applying, that's the word I wanted, a bead of glue along each wall and then setting the sides of what will be the sides of the house on the upright. I'm just trying to make sure it's as square as I can get it because I want my house to all be even and rectangular as opposed to, what is that called when it's kind of slanted? I know it's all a parallelogram, but anyway. Oh my goodness. Thinking back to my geometry days. Oh my goodness, I'm really having some challenges with my thoughts here. But going ahead and applying that extra side of the house, and I'm going to set it down here and make sure that I'm pressing it down onto the table to ensure that all of the pieces are going to lay flat. I don't want my little house to be wobbly later, so while the hot glue was still warm and pliable, I was just making sure that I was pressing it down and getting it even. So for this one, I'm using some slightly smaller pieces, and I'm going to use two of them. Whereas on that last house, I had it standing upright. So now I'm having it sideways and using two of them. I don't know if I'm making any sense. You know, they say a picture speaks 1,000 words. Hopefully that's the case here because I feel like I'm saying nonsense. But I did the same thing with that third little house. And then I'm going to be ready to start making some roofs for our little homes. These turned out so cute, you guys. I am really happy with them. So I can't wait for you to see what I ended up doing. But these are some other pieces that were in that stash. They were kind of strangely shaped, almost more like flat toothpicks. So at any rate, I'm going to kind of double them up here. I'm trimming it down. So this one and that one, they have kind of like a flat area at the peak of the roof, and the one in the middle there, it was pointy at the top. So I don't know. I felt like I needed to apply a little bit more, like a beam across the top, so to speak, for some structural support, if you will, for the roof. And it worked out very well. So trimming these down to be the same size because the widths are the same, or the depths. Anyway, they needed to be the same length. So applying a little bit of hot glue to each of those little tips of the house fronts and applying the little wood pieces for my upper beam across the top of my house. So I did that for both of those, and now I'm going to be ready to start applying the actual roof structure. So I'm going to use those same pieces of wood. They were a little bit big for that one, but they worked out perfectly for this one and for the other one. I'm going to be using two. Sorry, my hand's kind of in the way there, but you'll see what I'm doing. applying a little bit of glue, just the bottom half there to apply that first one. Make sure I've got it situated where I want it. That's the good thing about the hot glue. You can slide it around a little bit for a minute until it starts to cool. But here you can see I am applying the glue only where it's going to be hitting, and it was good that I had that additional little structure there. I overlapped those little wood slats a little bit so that it would create kind of like a shingle effect, if you will. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side and trying to make everything as even or symmetrical as possible. So just trying to be mindful of where everything is landing, so that I can do the same thing on this side that I had done on the first side. So then I felt like I didn't like the kind of gap that was at the top. So I'm taking this old popsicle stick that I'd used for paint stirring some time ago. And I trimmed it down, and I'm just kind of curving the end of the side that I had cut, to kind of match the curved edge of the side that I did not cut. Just trying to make it look somewhat symmetrical again. And I'm going to be applying that right to the top, but just making sure that it's going to fit properly. And I'm going to just fill that little canal, so to speak, with the hot glue, and then drop my piece right over on top of it. So for the next house, the little wood slats were oh my goodness. The wood pieces that I had for the walls were going to be too large for this one. I guess I could have used the smaller ones, but I opted not to. So I decided, actually, that's not true. I don't know if I could have used the smaller ones. I can't remember, to be quite honest. But for whatever reason, I decided to use popsicle sticks. Maybe I decided that I wanted it to have a different look to it as well, just for some more interest. So anyway, I am trimming down these popsicle sticks. I had measured out how long I needed each of them to be, and then I cut a whole bunch of them to create my roof slats here. It's going to be the same concept, same principle. I'm just going to be using a lot more of them to go up the edges of either side of this roof. Now, I did go up only until there was enough space for one last slat on either side. I left room because for that last one, I just wanted to make sure that I was going to be bringing the two pieces on either side, the one piece on either side, together to a point. I didn't want to end up with some kind of a weird gap, so I went as far as I could without going all the way to the top on both sides. So you can see I've got kind of like just a small gap there, a little bit of space left on either side, and then I'll take my last two pieces and I am going to kind of steeple them. Is that the right word? Steeple? I'm going to bring them together in a point and make sure that they are even, and so that my roof looks even and doesn't look lopsided. So just working with these to see how they're best going to fit, and then I am going to go ahead and apply them with the hot glue. So a little bit of hot glue on either side. I'm putting them both on together to make sure that they stay even. All right, so once I had my roofs all set, oh, here I'm doing the other one. Sorry, I forgot that I hadn't done this one yet, but same as the first one, but I used 3 instead of 2. And with this one, I was able, so this is kind of like a combo of the first and the second ones I showed you, because I'm using these larger slats, but I'm also steepling the roof. And for this one, I just held the one, as you can see, in place while I put the other one on, so I knew exactly where it needed to be positioned. And then I'll do the other one and just get that secured in there. And then my roof structures will be completely built, and I'm going to be ready to paint these. So look at how cute these are already. I love these so much, but give me a big thumbs up if you like what I'm doing here. All right, so now I have my Nantucket blue chalk paint. I have my Adirondack white chalk paint. I'm pulling out mineral, which is off camera, there it is, and my black. And these are the colors I'm going to use. I do pull out my red a little bit later as well, but one house I'm just painting in mineral, as you can see. The next house I am going to do in my Adirondack white. And these just took one good coat of paint. That was all they needed. The third house I'm doing in the Nantucket blue. I just love this color for houses. I don't know why. I don't know, maybe because it speaks New England to me. And then I did black on the one roof. I'm using mineral on this second roof for the White House, and I'll do black on the blue house roof. And so now I'm going to come in, they're all dry at this point. I'm going to come back in and paint the little doors on each house. So this is the mineral again. And it occurred to me as I was editing this video that I probably could have come in on this one with the blue for the doorway. And then on the White House, I could have done the black, but instead I did red. I don't know, I just wanted a pop of red in there. So I think they definitely still came out super cute, but let me know what you think. And now I'm going to decorate them a little bit more. As I mentioned before, I want to be covering up those holes that are in the houses. So I took some of this little evergreen tie, and it's kind of like it's wired, right? So I just created a mini little wreath with a piece of it that I snipped off, and now I'm hot gluing it to the top. And then I'm going to come in with some little berries that I'm going to pull off of this other pick. I've just got these little teeny tiny ones off of this little frosted berry pick. And using my little tweezers to place them, I'm just getting a little bit of hot glue. I'm not even squeezing the trigger on my hot glue. I'm just kind of dipping it in the glue that's kind of dripping on the nozzle there to get what I need to apply it to the wreath. Okay, now I've got these little pip berries. I was having a harder time trying to figure out how to decorate the two skinnier houses. I felt like that blue one was super easy with the little wreath that I did on top. These other two took a little bit more effort. So yeah, these I was using thinking that they might look a little bit like Christmas lights. They're kind of on the big side for this little house, but I don't know. I still think it looks cute. So I'm just making sure that I've got them covering up those holes, but then also getting them secured in here. So once I had them in place, I went ahead and used some hot glue to just secure it at the tip and then at the ends. So got that all settled down and just add a little bit more glue on either end so that it wasn't gonna end up falling off. This third house was the hardest one for me. I'm not sure that I love what I ended up doing. At first, I started using this red wired garland from the Dollar Tree, and I was trying to, I just wanted it to be festive looking, but I just was not liking the look of this. I had glued just the tip of it there, thinking that maybe I could manipulate it to get it to what I wanted. Yeah, no, I didn't like it at all. I thought it looked weird. So I went ahead and pulled that off, tried to get some of that off. I didn't want to take my heat gun to it to try to remove it because I didn't want my roof to fall apart if I got my roof too warm. So I just did my best with that. And then I ended up applying these little, I don't know what these are called. I call them bling, but these little decals, they're self-adhesive, and I was thinking Christmas lights. That was kind of what I had in my head, but the whole thing was a little bit of a weird shape because of the windows that are there. So I don't know. I did my best with that one. Not my favorite out of the three, but I think they're still all super cute. So now I've got fairy lights, and I was untangling it because it had just been in a drawer in my stash. And I'm going to be kind of wrapping a bunch of them together and tucking them up inside the house here, and then it'll be like on a string, I guess, if you will. The houses will be somewhat connected because I'm just going to use this same string of fairy lights to light all 3 of the houses. Now, I didn't show it on camera, but once I got all of this situated, I did go back with some hot glue at the base of each house and just kind of tack down the lights so that they wouldn't fall out, that they would stay where I wanted them. And I think these turned out super cute, but I can't wait to hear what you think. So be sure to leave me a comment. And if you haven't already subscribed, I hope you'll consider doing that. And as I mentioned earlier, today is the Minis Challenge. This takes place the 3rd Friday of each month. There's a whole playlist. The link is in my description box. DIY number 2. All right. This is a scarf from the Dollar Tree. It's kind of like a fuzzy faux fur scarf. I'm gonna trim off the little pom-pom on the end there. We'll save that for a future project. And I thought I might be able to just take the seam out of the bottom of that, and I ultimately gave up. I do end up just cutting that off. But I'm trying to figure out the best way to use the scarf for what I'm looking to achieve here. So trimmed that off, and now I'm going to be cutting 5 sections of this off. I want them all to be equal sections, and I want them to be sufficiently long for the shape that I'm going to be cutting. So I've got it started here. If I had to guess, I would say these are probably 5 inches long. And I would guess that they're probably about 3 inches wide. So I'm gonna call it a 3 by 5. That's my best guess. I did not measure them, but I've got a piece of parchment paper here, and I am going to use this as a pattern. I tried to hand draw it, started out okay, and then it kind of went out the window. But yeah, that right there didn't look so bad, and then that just was like, yeah, no. So what I did was I found an image on my phone that I could use, and I manipulated until I got it to the right size, and I just used this to trace. So I've got a new piece of parchment paper here that I'm going to use, and I've got my pencil, and I'm just going to trace the outline of the stocking to create my pattern. Now, once I had this all set, I do ultimately create additional copies of the pattern. You'll see that in just a second. But right now, I'm just making sure that it's going to fit on the scarf sections that I had cut out. And so once I was satisfied that was going to happen, I'm just tracing it a little bit darker so that I can see the line well enough to cut that out. So just double checking again that it's going to fit on here. I'm noticing that the seam in the scarf is going to need to go because it's going to interfere with what I am trying to do. I was thinking I might be able to work around it, but that was not the case ultimately. So I went ahead and ripped out that seam. I'm sorry about that pause there. I was having a coughing fit. But now I mentioned that I did create other copies of the pattern. So to be exact, I'm going to do 4 more. So I just folded my parchment paper in half a couple of times, and I'm going to trace my pattern onto the parchment paper, cut that out, and then I'll have a total of 5, right? Because the 4 more that I'm cutting right now plus the original. So I'll have 1 for each of my little pieces of scarf. That's just going to help me to go faster in the end. So I'm not going to have to like pin it and unpin it and pin it and unpin it. I'm just going to pin all of them and then I'll be able to just sew all of them. So I'm pinning them down. The scarves are, the seam has been ripped out of each one of them. They are still folded in half. and I've got the right side, they're inside out. Okay, so the right side is in right now. So I got out my sewing machine and I'm sewing around the outer edge of these patterns. I'm not using them like a regular pattern. If you're a regular sewer, if you'll know what I mean, usually you're sewing about a 1/4 inch inside your pattern. The reason is the patterns that I did here, that's the actual size that I want to end up with. So I'm sewing around the outer edge. Here's the other side so you can kind of see the stitching perhaps. Make sure you leave the top part of this open so that it actually functions like a little stocking. And then I took all of my pins out and I'm ready to start trying to figure out how I'm going to finish this. Now, had I to do it over again, if I had it to do over again, I might consider actually sewing the white fuzzy part of the stocking onto my red pieces before I sewed the stocking together. It ended up just fine the way I did it, but I'm going to end up using hot glue for this next part. So I've got it right side out so you can see how they all look. They are super cute. And now I've got my, these are scraps that I'm going to be using. These were microfiber cloth from the Dollar Tree. And this is why I keep all my scraps, because I never know when I might actually be able to use them. And waste not, want not. I always would prefer to reuse things and save the scraps and limit my waste. So that was my thought there. So here I'm just trying to figure out how I want to apply it. I hadn't settled on the hot glue just yet. Originally I thought I was going to be sewing these, but then I realized that my hole was kind of small. A lot of trial and error. I did glue it down. I'm going to show you. I didn't want to show you this one because, again, it was a lot of trial and error and figuring it out. And clearly I have the seam in the front of my stocking, so now I'm going to have to decorate it. And I was originally just planning on having them be plain stockings, but because of my faux pas, now I'm just going to decorate it to hide that seam. And you can certainly do that with all of them if you so choose, and that way you won't have a visible seam anywhere. For the rest of them, I opted to do it the other way, so my seam is just in the back, but you can do it however you would like to do it. So just using some hot glue to get that all secured. And now I've cut out, now that I've figured out what I'm doing, I cut out 4 additional pieces of the microfiber cloth. I'm sticking, so this is where I'm showing you what I actually do. So I'm sticking a piece of parchment paper inside the stocking there so that the hot glue doesn't go through the fabric and glue itself together. And then I am applying a bead of hot glue across the top, securing my little microfiber cloth. I've got the good side facing up in this instance, so the stocking itself is inside out and the microfiber cloth is right side out, and that's because we're going to be folding it over, so it needs to be opposite of what the stocking is. I'm just trimming off some of that extra fabric to get it out of the way. And then I am folding over the little microfiber cloth, gluing it down and just making sure that that is nice and secure. I'm not gluing the seam just yet. I will do that later once I have it all situated. I want to give myself a little bit of wiggle room as far as how that's going to play out. So once it was cool enough, I pulled out the parchment paper. I'm going to turn it right side out. And here is our little stocking. I think these are just adorable. So getting it all situated, I'm making sure that the edge of the white microfiber is staying inside the stocking and just making sure that it's where it needs to be, and then I can glue that little seam down. So there is that. And that's what I did with the rest of them. Just made sure that they were nice and right side out. Here they all are all done, and I'm going to go ahead and continue to decorate all of them because of that first one that I kind of messed up. Now, is it really messed up? You know, I guess I could have flipped it around and had the toe pointing the other way. I just, in my head, I decided that I wanted the toes all pointing to the right side, so that's the way that I did it. Excuse me. So decorating them with just little the evergreen ties, and then little berry picks that I just cut little pieces off of. And you can decorate these however you'd like, or you can leave them plain. You don't have to decorate them. So here they all are. Here they are all decorated. I would love to know what you think of these. I'm actually going to create little hangers for them now, though. So this is some red cord. This is something I had picked up at the Hobby Lobby when all of their Christmas stuff was 60% off. And I'm just cutting pieces. I would say these are probably maybe 3 or 4 inches in length. And I'm just going to be creating loops that I can glue into the inside. I'm going to call it the back of the stocking. I think that would be considered the back because it would be at the back of your leg if you were wearing it. So just positioning it like that so you can see how I'm doing it. So I've got my loop, I've got my ends. I'm going to apply some hot glue there, and then I'm going to tuck it down inside the stocking, trying to not get the glue everywhere, and just kind of squeezing it until it is good to hold on its own. And I did that with the rest of them, and that was it. Let me know what you think. DIY number 3. Okay, this is leftover from a project I did, I think it was last week. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. I made this Christmas countdown. It was adorable. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But I wanted to use this for a new project. And I had this idea I could put these skewers in here and it would hold it right up. And then I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, wait a minute. My star is upside down. And I'm thinking that's probably not good. I went to check Google to be sure, and I'm looking it up, and I was like, yeah, not good to have my upside down star. So I'm going to plan B on this. Just using the skewers in the opposite way. I needed to trim these ones down. I'd gone back to my stash for some taller ones or longer ones, and I'm just trying to figure out how to position them so that this will work properly. I'm using some hot glue now in the front hole. It's gonna get a little wonky here, but I don't know if I didn't try to see if just little rods would have worked better. I had the skewers, so that was what I was going with. I'm not sure if little rods would have worked because I think they might have been too wide, too thick to get through those holes, at least the ones that I have. So securing that with hot glue front and back, and now I wanted a little bit extra support, so I'm using a popsicle stick. I do end up changing this a little bit later, but for right now I'm just applying a little dab of glue to either end of the popsicle stick, and I'm going to put the ends of those skewers right down in there so that it just is providing it with some extra stability to be able to stand on its own. And now I'm going to decorate it. I decided I was going to do like a little garland across the top of this. So I've got, this is from the Dollar Tree. This is, again, a tie, but you can see it's kind of fluffier. And I thought that this would work out well for this particular garland that I was going to do. Now, I didn't realize at the time that my SD card for my camera was almost out of space again. So in a moment, my camera shut off and I didn't realize it right away. I think I've resolved the problem. There was a bunch of stuff on that card that I didn't realize was on there in like a hidden folder. I've now found it and deleted it, so I shouldn't have that issue anymore. but leave it to me, right? So a little bit of hot glue on either corner once I got this in the shape that I wanted it. That's secure, and then I lost the power on my camera or whatever, but now I'm showing you. I used some of these little picks that I literally pulled them apart. I had a couple of these little bows from the Dollar Tree that I applied, and that was how I decorated my little garland. But again, you can decorate it however you would like. I mentioned before that I was going to change the stand on this. This is just my heat gun. I am loosening up the hot glue on here so that I can adjust how this is going. I decided I wanted I wanted to say toothpick. That is not a toothpick. That is a popsicle stick. Jeez, you guys, yeah. Anyway, you can see how I am trying to do this. I've got the little support at the back, but then I'm bringing it forward. I think this is ultimately the best way to do this. And it's also going to allow me to put it on my tiered tray with less hindrance, because the bar across the back was going to prevent me from actually putting it on my tray with the upright post going through the middle of the tray, if you know what I mean. So once I got that all secured, I decided I was also going to cover the back of this so the star would be gold. These are little Christmas ornaments in this like foil. It came with like tissue paper, but it's foil. But like plastic foil. I don't know. I cut a piece out that I can apply to the back. Just kind of smudged a bit of hot glue along there because I didn't want it to be too hot. So I didn't want too much glue applied because I was afraid I was going to melt this because it is plastic. And did the same thing. So I literally put the nozzle right on the piece and kind of dragged it along the piece just to get a tiny little bit of hot glue. And there you go. And now it's time for a shout out timeout. Amazing, Tammy. You guys, these are Cricut projects. Can you imagine the time, the hours that it took her to do those? Amazing. And cute Kathy, I am loving the gingerbread especially. I would love to give you a shout out as well. If you have interest, just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 4. All right, this is a little box, I believe from Michael's, that my sister had picked up for me a while back. It was $1 and then it was on sale 20% off, I think. So I've got a bunch of, I think they're called finishing nails. They're tiny nails with tiny little heads on them. They do have heads, but they're small heads. And I'm just banging a whole bunch of these into my little wooden bin, box, whatever you want to call this, until I've got the shape that I want. And then I am going to put my nails away and grab my baker's twine in yellow and white. I'm creating a slip knot here. Now, in hindsight, I should have left a tail, like a decently long tail on here. Of course, I snipped it off thinking I wanted to hide it, but had I left the tail on it, it would have made it easier for me to tie off with the other end when I was finished wrapping this. So I'm right now just going to wrap it in the shape of the star that I'm looking to create. So just like you would draw a star, that's the pattern that I'm following with this. And I'm just kind of twisting it around each nail as I go through to help make it secure. I think I found later that I didn't necessarily have to do that, but that was what I was doing in the beginning. So if you try this project, you can see if you can do it without twisting it around each nail head, and let me know if that works out well for you, because I think you can probably do it that way. But here I am just trying to tie that off and making sure that it's secure so it won't come unraveled. I just kind of had to manipulate it a little bit, and then I'm going to trim it here and tie it off some more. I'm sorry that it's hard to see. I'm kind of weaving it through the design that I've made, kind of, and then pulling it taut. And I did that a couple of times just to make sure that it was kind of tied off. Then I trimmed it off and tucked it down inside the string so that you couldn't see the end. And now this is green twine from the Dollar Tree that I had picked up a while ago. I've had it in my stash probably for a couple of years, to be honest. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. But now I'm a little bit wiser, having tried to figure out how to tie off that star. So I'm going to leave a long tail on this one. It's still a slip knot, attaching it to that first nail. And now I'm going to work my way around to do my little tree here. And I'm going to go back and forth kind of at a diagonal. So I'm skipping some of the nails here and there and then going back to them because I want to make sure that it's a little bit more dynamic than just going back and forth. You certainly can just go back and forth if that's a look that you like, but I really wanted mine to be kind of crisscrossing all over my little tree. So I'm going to work my way all the way up, and then I'll work my way back down again. So if I've got any holes or gaps, those will ultimately get covered on the way back through. But you can see I'm kind of going over it back and forth a little bit anyway, instead of going straight up. So just continuing. And here you see me doing it without twisting it around the nail heads in some places. And it actually worked just fine. So I do think that that might possibly be a way to do it. Worked my way all the way back down to the bottom. And then I was ready to go ahead and tie it off. So you can see my little tail sticking out down there. I left a long tail when I trimmed it off there, and I'm just going to tie it right near the base of the nail that I started with. So tying that in a good knot there, and then I'm going to tuck these strings right up in and under. But I realized the one of them was a little bit too long, so trimmed that off, tucked them in. Now they're hidden. I think this is super cute, and it's pretty much done, except I'm just making sure my nails are all like the same height there. But as you saw, I've got all those nails sticking out in the back. So if you followed me for any length of time, you know I like to have things looking finished, or at least not, you know, a danger or a hazard to somebody who goes to pick something up. So I've got some more of my microfiber cloth that I'm tucking in here, and that's it. And here we are with the final reveal. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the project, remember to give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know which one was your favorite. Remember, there is a playlist full of inspiration. The link is in my description box, so please go give everyone some love. And until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.